flying high, vertically through the sky and the clouds, destroying all the enemies. PC Engine, one of the greats. Gunhed in Japan, blazing lasers in the States.
Blazing lasers! Blazing lasers! Blazing lasers! Gunhed.
Oh, blazing lasers is so much fun that one might mistake me for a gunhead. Ultimately, there's really not much to say about this PC Engine Turbografx release other than it is one of the finest vertical shooters to have ever been created. The incredibly gifted developers over at Compile crafted this 1989 masterpiece under the direction of Masamitsu Nitani, based off of Gunhed, a Japanese film I've never seen. Most of today's footage was taken from the PC Engine version, as it, unlike its North American counterpart, retains referential story beats to its source material. Though, I must admit, if I hadn't read of this online, I wouldn't have known. This is a space shooter, and as such, the story really isn't all that important, at least to me. It's hard to get any deeper with this thing other than stating that it's a Compile-produced vertical space shooter and that it's unsurprisingly amazing. But let's try and pad this thing out with more superfluous words of praise. One of the things I dig the most about Blazing Lasers is just how accessible it is. The first few stages allow the participant a bit of breathing room to suss out how the game is to be played. After that, though, good luck, pal. You'll need it. Maybe I'm a tad too old for my own good, but more than a couple of buttons in a shooter almost immediately means I'll have no fun with it. Gunhed is challenging, but you won't be fumble-fucking your way with the controls. It's really quite simple to pick up and play. The challenge is in the power-ups, your knowledge of them, and your numerical preferences. I'm a 3 kind of guy. Graphics are what you see, with very little slowdown, if any at all, and a smooth experience with interesting backgrounds and bosses. There's a ton of stuff going on visually, and it all looks great. The music, though, is perhaps its most divisive quality. Some of it is superb, while other tracks are merely average. Normally, this would be okay, but with such a limited amount of variety, I really couldn't help but be a bit underwhelmed. What's surprising is that there are 6 composers on this soundtrack in total. JTS, Keiji Takeuchi, Masanobu Tsukamoto, Masatomo Miyamoto, Ozone, and Sidon Inui. I don't know who composed what, but some tracks are definitely better than others. Also, I don't speak Japanese, so feel free to tell me just how awful I am at pronouncing those names and how terrible I am as a person. I'm sure you will, anyway, Internet. Unlike a lot of shooters from the era, all hope isn't lost when your ship takes damage. There are plenty of power-ups and shields to prevent quick, repetitive death loops. Lives are easy to come by and continues are plentiful. Part of the challenge lies in avoiding bonus items that don't gel with an individual's playstyle, and this adds to the rhythmic nature of the gameplay very well. With 9 levels, I'd say that the difficulty curve is pretty perfect and welcoming to any new players, though unfortunately Gunhed does suffer from a trope that was very popular in both horizontal and vertical shooters of the day, in the ruthless unfairness of the final stage. Death in any other level simply has the ship respawn where it was destroyed, but in the last stretch, the player is sent way back. Similarly to other games in the genre like Thundercross or action titles such as Ninja Gaiden, this goes against the rules set out by the developers early on. It feels cheap and reeks of artificial difficulty in order to pad out the experience. Stage 9 is also a real bastard of a level that sees an exponential spike in difficulty, as well as a boss rush throughout. It took me the better part of 3 decades to see the end of this game, and while I appreciate the challenge, I don't feel like the developers created a fun or fair home stretch here. But this is something that's pretty standard for any shooter. In conclusion, I don't really know what else to say. Compile made some great shooters. This is one of their earlier titles and still one of my personal favorites. Try it out, or don't. I really couldn't care less what you do with your life.